seat. We're going to start in just a few minutes. So if folks could take a seat. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of West Hollywood's World AIDS Day program. Tonight is the 30th anniversary of World AIDS Day. I'm David Juni. I'm the manager of the city's Social Services Division, and we'd like to start the welcome with Mayor Duran and Council. If you could please come up.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the annual World AIDS Day here in the city of West Hollywood. My colleagues and I would like to, of course, congratulate all the awardees who are here tonight, and thank you to those of you who did the march from Crescent Heights to San Vicente, although I've learned a lesson tonight. Never let Jefferson Hendrick or anybody else who's physically fit lead the parade, because we were sprinting down Santa Monica Boulevard, but thank you, Jefferson, for leading the parade tonight. I don't know if you all caught the news, but our Vice President, Mike Pence, had remarks for World AIDS Day yesterday. And for the second year in a row, in his remarks, he made no mention of the LGBT community or that HIV and AIDS had primarily affected and impacted gay and bisexual and men who have sex with men, as if to completely obliterate us from the story of HIV and AIDS. It seems like Mike Pence just can't get past his thinking that just a little old reparative therapy on some of us will turn us around. Some of us are beyond repair. So whatever insanity is happening in Washington, D.C., and there's lots of insanity happening in Washington, D.C., and I think actually the insanity and the chaos is about to shift from the right over to the left, with Speaker Nancy Pelosi running the House in January. And we will start to see some correction for Mr. Trump and Mr. Pence. But tonight we gather because we know the truth about HIV and AIDS. And the truth was, and is, that it was LGBT people at the center of the epidemic from day one. It was government neglect under Ronald Reagan and George Bush that allowed HIV and AIDS to mushroom into extraordinary numbers. And it was into that vacuum and void that LGBT people and our straight allies stepped into as young 20-somethings and 30-somethings who knew nothing about Kaposi sarcoma, or pneumocystis carinii pneumonia, or toxoplasmosis, or CMV retinitis. We knew nothing about any of those words. But what we knew is that our friends and our lovers were sick and they were dying. And we created a community, AIDS foundations, the first AIDS walk in the nation here in Los Angeles, AIDS Project Los Angeles, AIDS Healthcare Foundation, Being Alive, Aid for AIDS, LA Shanti, ACT UP Los Angeles, Queer Nation, and on and on and on. We created a community response to HIV and AIDS. And we did it. We brought drugs to the market. Some of you know the tragic statistic that we lost 10,000 residents in West Hollywood from 1981 until 1995. It's like a bomb fell in the city of West Hollywood. In spite of all that tragedy, we stepped in, we took a hold of the plague, we took a hold of the epidemic, we created institutions, foundations, walks, rides, parachute jumps, everything to get on top of the virus, and we brought the cocktail treatments and the antiretrovirals and the protease inhibitors to the market to make sure that the dying would stop. Now, the epidemic's not over, and I know so many of you that are getting awards tonight are heavily involved in the work that needs to continue, especially with African American and Latino communities who are being still disproportionately impacted by HIV and AIDS. We will continue the work. But tonight, we remember our dead with love and fondness. We especially recognize, and I do it every year at World AIDS Day, the lesbians in our community who stepped up when they didn't need to, who took positions of leadership and led us through the epidemic. And we especially reach out, grasp the hand of our heterosexual straight allies who helped those of us in the LGBT community confront this virus and plague. So in that spirit, happy holidays. Have a great holiday season. May your hearts be full with what's to come ahead. And thank you all for continuing the fight against HIV and AIDS. And now I will be so bold to make a prediction that by 2030, we will see that headline in the New York Times and the Los Angeles Times and the Washington Post that says, AIDS over. 2030.
So just a few housekeeping things before we begin the program. I just want people to be aware that tonight's program is being filmed and will be available for viewing on WehoTV and on the City of West Hollywood's YouTube channel. So it's a good thing that everybody looks so nice tonight. Wanted to just say a special thank you to David Reed. Once again this year we are projecting the AIDS Watch, the scroll of names. This is the tribute that David created to those that we've lost. It is now projecting on the side of the library. We had a few technical difficulties, but it is now projecting. So if you have a chance after today's program, please check it out. We will have a reception after the program. We hope that you'll stay and spend some time together. We hope that we have we're doing our community study pop-up out in the library. If you have time to provide input to us, this is a community needs assessment we do prior to our social services funding cycle. We really want to hear from you on programming and the needs of the city. So if you have time, please join us. And then I just want you to sit back and we're going to watch a video from the Foundation for the AIDS Monument. Then hear some words from the Executive Director, Tony Valenzuela. Thank you.
My involvement with the monument is more personal. My dad died of AIDS.
I lost a stepbrother to AIDS. I lost so many friends.
The first person that I lost was my friend Scott Fleener in June of 1985. He was one of 104 friends that would go on to pass in a 10-year period.
It was really bittersweet having the ability to go to college, but at the same time, I had to take care of my dad and eventually bury my dad at 19.
People ask, how many friends did you lose? And I say, countless.
A friend of mine, his father passed away when he was 6 of AIDS, and because there was still such a stigma attached, he didn't end up finding that out until he was well into his teens.
The devastation with families. You know, I thought that my brother and I would grow old together.
As I would lose a friend, I'd put them on the list because I believed naively at the beginning that there was going to be an end to this at some point, and I'd have the opportunity to grieve.
My uncle passed away in 2001, a year after my high school graduation. It's been a while since I talked about him.
We were isolated, we were discriminated against, we were, really made to feel less than second-class citizens because people were associating being gay with death.
I was here in West Hollywood, just looking up and down the street. It just looked like a war zone.
Then the memorials and funerals started coming one after the other. Sorry. And
Without AIDS and the struggle and the activism, we wouldn't be where we are today as a community.
AIDS is real. AIDS is still here, and we still need to remember the people who, like my dad, paved the way without knowing for testing, for research, for all the different, the progress that we have now.
I believe that the sort of optimism and direct action that AIDS has caused us to believe in will continue to exist.
The AIDS movement really transformed healthcare, lobbying, all the advances in gay marriage are because of the AIDS fight.
Open your eyes and open your ears and take part in the world, because the world is so much more than you.
I think it's time that these stories are put out there and told, because a lot of the younger generation, they really don't know anything about the crisis.
I think it's really important for the younger generation not to brush it off and look at it as if it's not an issue anymore, that it's something of the 80s, of the 90s, of the early 2000s. It's still here.
If we make this monument and strike something in people's hearts, they'll research it, they'll talk to their friends about it, and it will be an opening to spark conversation and to spark education in our communities.
The importance of this is that it isn't a memorial, it's a monument, and that it's not just a destination, it's a source of encouragement and hope and conversation.
To show that we as a community, as a government, as a city, can come together and put money and time and effort and detail into something that says, we're not going to forget all that you went through.
I pray that the people who died will live on in the memories of others who appreciate who they were and what they were and the gifts they brought to the planet.
It's monumental.
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 It is. It's monumental.
Well, thank you. It's such an honor to be here. I'm Tony Valenzuela, the Executive Director of the Foundation for the AIDS Monument. And as many of you know, in just a couple of years' time, we're going to be here in West Hollywood Park building a world-class public monument, which will sit along San Vicente Boulevard from the foot of the steps of the library, dedicated to remembering the thousands of brilliant souls lost to the AIDS epidemic here in LA and many million more beyond LA, to celebrate the Herculean achievements of activists and caregivers who did what others wouldn't do for us, and to educate future generations about the historical impact of the epidemic and its ongoing challenges. The monument is called Stories, the AIDS Monument, and the video we just saw highlights why it's so important that we tell these stories and that they're never forgotten. We hope in the coming years that you will tell your story with the monument as well. Thank you.
It is my honor to introduce LA City Controller Ron Galprin. Mr. Galprin serves as the elected watchdog for LA's taxpayers. He oversees more than 160 employees, conducting independent audits, managing the city payroll and disbursements. He prepares reports on the city's finances, pursuing waste and fraud, provides information about the city's finances and operations online, and focusing on modernization, management, and metrics. Please welcome LA City Controller Ron Galprin.
Good evening, everybody. It's really an honor to be here and to represent the suburb of West Hollywood, the city of Los Angeles. I often think that I have perhaps the most deceptive title of all of the elected officials in the city of Los Angeles, that being controller, in that I don't get to control everything. I am, however, working on it. And I do remember after I got elected, my mother, as only a mother could say, said, "Finally, a title to go with your personality." I wanted to, first of all, say thank you to the mayor, John Duran, to Mayor Pro Tem, John D'Amico, to council members Heilman, Horvath, Meister. You really are doing such great work here in West Hollywood, and we are watching in the city of LA and emulating many of the great things that you're doing. So please give it up for them. I have to say this is a really emotional evening for me personally, in that I am recalling so many beautiful, wonderful, precious souls who are no longer with us and who I keep in my heart and in my mind after so many years. We lost so many to HIV and to AIDS, and we're here to reflect on how far we've come, but also on how far it is that we have to go. For those of us who are a little on the older side, we're remembering, but it's also vital to educate that next generation, young people who don't necessarily know the history of AIDS, of HIV, of the devastation that it brought to our community, but also to so many others. I remember in the early 1980s, I was a teenager when the news of that curious gay affliction first entered our consciousness. It was then referred to in a number of different ways. There were some who called it gay-related immune deficiency, or GRID. It was called the gay cancer, or worse, the gay plague. And the mere whisper of HIV or of AIDS raised a specter of fear, of discrimination. I remember the first days when I was coming out as a gay man, and it was really scary. We weren't sure how HIV and how AIDS were even contracted. There were people who were afraid to even touch someone who had HIV or who had AIDS, or to touch even anybody who was gay, because they were afraid that's how they were going to get it. And it was essentially a death sentence at that stage. It was terrifying. And then it went well beyond the gay community, as I think we know, with virulence in Africa, among people of color, our trans brothers and sisters, people suffering drug addiction, hemophiliacs, babies, everybody. And as AIDS spread, our then president, Ronald Reagan, what did he have to say about AIDS? Nothing. Absolute silence for years. We often now look back upon the past and we think about some of the reasonable presidents that we had. They were not all that reasonable. And it took years to have the federal government finally give some attention to AIDS and to HIV. And it was really with relentless activism and remarkable research and incredible caregiving of so many people who really put their heart and their soul, and that is why we've made the incredible gains that we've made in the prevention, in the treatment of HIV. And what used to be life-threatening and in fact life-ending is now able to be changed, where there are people who have undetectable viral loads and are not even able to transmit anymore. But everybody, absolutely everybody, needs to be tested and needs to know what their status is. Now, the fight is not over by any means, nor is the battle for the kind of discrimination that allowed HIV and AIDS to spread the way that it did. We're seeing that discrimination today, and we see it coming from Washington, D.C., among other places. That same stigma and that same ignorance, and we cannot be silent. We must not be silent. Now, this city of West Hollywood has shown unwavering dedication to bring an end to the disease, and what West Hollywood did is be a leader and saved lives, not only people in West Hollywood, not only in Los Angeles, but globally with the policies and with the things that West Hollywood did. You guys should be so incredibly proud. And in Los Angeles, that suburb of West Hollywood, as I mentioned, I'm proud of the resources that we dedicated. It was back in 1989 that we created the first Office of AIDS Coordinator. This was under then Mayor Bradley, and it still exists today, providing AIDS, HIV education and prevention services. Now, we've got a real fight on our hands when you look at what is happening in Washington, D.C., and an administration, as the mayor mentioned, seeking to marginalize, seeking to divide, seeking to have us take steps back, many steps back from the equality and from the dignity that we have sought to achieve, not only as members of the LGBTQ community, but for so many other marginalized communities. And we will not allow that to happen, because we've got to fight until there is no more HIV, until there is no more AIDS, until there's no more homophobia, no more transphobia, no more sexism, no more racism, no more xenophobia. And I know that it's going to be around for a little while, and I'd like it to go away tomorrow, but we are going to make it happen at some point, and we all have a role in helping that come to fruition. And by 2030, as Mayor Duran mentioned, we will put AIDS in the history books as not existing anymore. 2030, and it's not that far away. So thank you so much to all of you who have been on the front lines, and people like Paul Stark, who was a warrior and left behind an incredible legacy. And those who are being awarded tonight, what a great legacy to be able to follow. And you are all examples to me, and I think to everyone else in this room, of what a difference each individual can make in our communities, in HIV, in AIDS, but in all sorts of different activism, and in really bringing goodness into the world. So I'm profoundly grateful for the opportunity to be here this evening, to remember, to really join in this important evening as we recall that which happened, and as we also gird ourselves for all that we have to do in the future. Thank you so much, and may we continue that fight.
Hey everybody, I'm Derek with the Social Services Division. I'd like to welcome two very special guest speakers who will be discussing two strategic plans. Cheryl Barrett is the Executive Director of the Los Angeles County Commission on HIV, and she will be discussing the county strategy to reduce HIV infections. And Dr. Aaron Celius is the Director of Maroon Society, and he will be discussing the City of West Hollywood's plan to end HIV and AIDS in the city. Please welcome Cheryl first, and then Aaron to the podium.
Good evening, everybody. So lovely to see everybody, and I want to say thank you to the leadership of the City of West Hollywood, Mayor Duran, and the City Council members. I cannot tell you how important it is to have visible leadership in the HIV movement to make this effective and to make it happen for all communities throughout the country. So thank you for being here, and all of you. I always say this, I am so grateful that whenever we convene conversations around HIV/AIDS and the needs for coming together, the people take the time to be here. It's Friday night, and you're all here. I think that is an incredible sign of commitment. And for the awardees, you are at the front line, so I'm doing this update in your honor, and also as fuel, hopefully, to marshal our efforts so that we don't give up. It could be 2030 and beyond, meaning that we will never let this happen again. So I hope that we can continue that fight. So I'm going to provide an update of what's happening in the Los Angeles County area. But I also want to recognize that in doing this update that I am not the only voice up here, that there are several commissioners in the audience that I would be remiss if I didn't recognize. The City of West Hollywood Representative Derek Murray, Dr. Tony Mills is in the back, I see you back there, and then Terry Goddard from the Alliance is out here. So if I miss anybody, let me know, but wave. But this is all you guys. And Joe Green, there you are, Joe Green, a resident of West Hollywood. So these are the people working very hard to make sure that we make that mark in 2030. So here we go. Am I pointing the right thing? Did I do? I see what I did. Thank you. All right, so if you haven't seen the document, this is what it looks like in its front cover. And I will give credit where credit is due. West Hollywood released their plan first, and we learned in terms of how to engage community members and also how to have the difficult conversations in the right spaces so that all the community members that need to be involved in this effort are truly engaged in the long-term effort. So these are key metrics in Los Angeles. Some of these numbers you may have seen and some of them you may not. But what I want to underscore behind the numbers that you see over there is that Los Angeles County carries nearly 40% of the HIV disease burden in the state of California. When we carry 40% of the disease burden in California, what that means is that if we succeed in Los Angeles County, California will succeed in its effort to end HIV. And if California succeeds in its effort to end HIV, the nation will follow. And I think that is the strong expectation and a rightful expectation for a county as big as Los Angeles, encompassing 10 million people. We're doing good in viral suppression, however, we need to do more. Our goal for 2020 is 90-90-90, as you know, 90% in terms of people diagnosed with HIV with a corresponding 90% in retention into care, and also viral suppression. In 2030, we need to get that to 95-95-95. So there is no other way around this movement but to be aggressive and being unapologetic about the aggressive nature of what we need to do in order to maintain that action. The last number there, I want to let you all know, that's new. That was released by our partners in the County of Public Health, that in using national surveillance data, the National HIV Behavioral Surveillance Information, extrapolation and estimation, it is estimated that to date in Los Angeles County, that we have approximately 18,000 individuals currently on PrEP, which is what we need, pre-exposure prophylaxis. We know that in order to be successful in this effort, we have the tools to end HIV. Effective medicine, science-based education and prevention methodology, and the more effort that we have to make sure that people are linked into PrEP, we would be successful in our efforts. These are the goals that we have for the Los Angeles County HIV/AIDS strategy, so you see them behind me. These are extremely ambitious goals, but we believe that in order to do this, we have to make sure that no more than 500 individuals are infected in 2020, and we're looking at very high retention and also viral suppression rates. All right, whoops. Some of the activities that our partners within the Division of HIV and STD programs have conducted are important to mention, so I'll go over some of them. In particular to the numbers of community convenings that we have done, some of the key changes have been on programmatic and contractual expectations. What that means is that if an agency is contracted to do important life-saving HIV work throughout the county, there are certain expectations that the performance, deliverables, and every aspect of their activities match the goals of the strategy. And many of you have been a part of those conversations and shifting the terms of how we provide services so that they are truly centered around the needs of our clients. The other area that I want to highlight is the policy orientation of the strategy. I'm going to be going over some examples of some policy recommendations. We believe that in order to affect the most number of people in our community, that we also have to be aggressive in our policy conversations. The other aspect as well is working with UCLA to model the effects of our efforts on how we would go about making sure that we are on target. For instance, in Los Angeles County, we estimate that we need a little over 1.9 million HIV tests in order to identify all of those people living with HIV. What if we fall short of that 1.9 million? What would happen to the rest of our goals to meet viral suppression at 90% or retention into care at 90%? So we're going to be working with UCLA to figure out some very interesting and more targeted and precise modeling of how we are doing along the way in the next 5 years. New program advancements. Some of you have heard of medical care coordination, and I'm looking at Dr. Mills, which is one of our medical coordination sites. It really is a data has proven that it is an important intervention to make sure that people get the care that they need and that they remain into care. In order for an effective intervention to occur, all of the medical services along with wraparound services for social support is needed, and that's where the county is moving to heighten and elevate those as well as core support services for people living with HIV. I cannot divorce the conversation of HIV without mentioning STDs. So in our effort around the LA County HIV/AIDS strategy, you will note that we are also focusing a lot on how we would go about increasing testing for STD and treatment as well. Some of the issues that I want to highlight out of this particular information is the importance of addressing all the social determinants of health and mental health. We know that the main drivers of HIV are associated with the isms that face us in our society. Racism, misogyny, homophobia, all of those, transphobia, are issues that we need to tackle. We call them the bars before the bars and barriers that affect full and optimal access to care. Without addressing those bars, we will not be effective in our ability to address HIV. Some good news, at the Board of Supervisors, just this past Thursday, they declared December 4th as U=U Day. And how many have heard of U=U? Yeah, good, wonderful. Undetectable equals untransmittable. And that is an important step from the LA County to be able to sign on to the national and international consensus statement on U=U. We are also participating in the national dialogue in terms of having a scaled up and aggressive approach to ending all epidemics in the United States, so we're happy to be a part of that effort. The Commission is in charge of monitoring the LA County HIV/AIDS plan, and in that effort, one of the things that I want to mention is that we have ongoing community engagement. So when you hear commissioners around the table talk to you about how you can join us, we want you to be able to participate, and we certainly need your help in terms of eliciting action from members who have not been at the table before. We need new partners. We need long-standing partners at the table in order to make this effective. I want to also share with you that one of the key things that we are doing in terms of our commissioners is that they're taking the lead in listening to your feedback. Believe me, they're reporting back at our full commission meetings and different community conversation in terms of where we are doing well and where we are not. So I encourage you to provide that information with our City of West Hollywood partners as well as providers that you have around the table. They certainly are very committed and engaged in this process. I want to talk a little bit about what we have done in terms of planning, because I think this is important for our partners within the West Hollywood community. In Los Angeles County, we tend to think about our geographic areas and service planning area orientation. We are now looking at 26 health districts, meaning they are more targeted communities, allowing us to fully understand the resources, assets, and gaps, and who are most deeply affected by the HIV burden. And we're working towards allocating resources that match the need as demonstrated by the HIV 26 health districts. Policy approach. One of the key areas on the strategy is implementing specific policy approaches in what we do. We have a policy work group that's currently working with the state of California and the HIV/AIDS Alliance to ensure that we pass legislation that would promote expanded services and a more aggressive approach to work with the health plans to end HIV. I'll talk about a couple of legislative pieces that we hope to marshal and sponsor for 2019, and that is to develop some more robust data sharing with health plans, as well as for health plans to help pay for a lot of the services that we need to do on both the prevention and care treatment side. We want to work for mandatory opt-out HIV testing, which we believe would help end the stigma around HIV, and also make sure that all clinics are fully utilized and fully capable to provide immediate access within 24 hours for people who are diagnosed with HIV. Mention that a little bit. So I want to talk a little bit about 2019 key areas of focus. I'm going through this just very briefly. We want to engage all of you in ongoing community efforts. And one of the things that you will see up there is the importance of ongoing planning activity. So I cannot stress this enough. The Commission is the body in charge for Los Angeles County of allocating resources and prioritizing services for people living with HIV. And that process is driven by all of you in the audience. It is a community-driven process. As much as we have you around the table, you play a role in determining how that $45 million that LA County gets is supposed to be distributed throughout the county, and which population should be prioritized and which needs should be prioritized. So I urge you to participate in that planning process. We want you at the table. And for those of you who are between the ages of 30, we want to see you at the table. And why did I say that? Because that is the population that we know needs to be at the table, most highly impacted, communities of color, and I am here as one of your allies to make sure that we prepare the way to help you succeed in that conversation effort. Okay. So this is the website. I'm sure you're all just eager to read all 100 pages of it. Just kidding, it's 25. It's available in Spanish. And we're going to be working on this fairly aggressively. But I do want to preview one of the dates here. If you're interested in data like I am, I'm a data geek. Around April, maybe summer 2019, you'll see there, our partner, the Division of HIV and STD programs, they're gearing up to present updated information on all of the key performance metrics. So I encourage you to watch out for that information and participate in that process. And I do just want to say that in terms of the HIV movement, it's not a one-time all. I have a 13-year-old son, and when I was expecting with him, I was hoping that I wouldn't have to do this work anymore, right? I think we're all hoping for that. I like all of us to think that our measure of success is to work our way out of a job that has anything to do with HIV/AIDS. And that might sound scary, but if we truly are successful in this endeavor, we should be working our way towards the next phase of a truly healthy community. So thank you all for being here.
Good evening. That was incredible, Cheryl. Thank you. I can't get $45 million out of my head. I have a lot of ideas of what I would do with that money. Perfect, it's there. My name is Aaron Salias, and I will be presenting the HIV Zero Initiative Strategy Evaluation Update. I'd just like to say how honored I am to be here and how incredible the city of West Hollywood is. I'd also like to say I've never had anyone signing anything I've said before, so I might be a little distracted, but it's incredible. So I grew up in the 80s and early 90s, and back then the life expectancy for someone with an HIV diagnosis was about 2 years. At that time, my mother worked as a home health nurse, caring for men living with HIV. And at that time, the men were rapidly declining. As I mentioned, they didn't have long to live. They were isolated, often from the world, with slim chances for survival. And these realities created the fear, discrimination, and the stigma that we are still confronting today and working collectively to address. Cut to present day, a person diagnosed with HIV can live a full, healthy life. In fact, in the city of West Hollywood, we are witnessing the first generation of long-term survivors. And these victories demand acknowledgement and celebration. And so I'm happy to be celebrating the accomplishments with you all in this room tonight. Mostly I'm honored that I'm a part of the people in this room who fought and worked so hard to make these accomplishments a reality. Having said that, I'm going to move on to talking about the update, where we are with it. So in 2015, West Hollywood City Council, collectively and with strong advocacy from John D'Amico and John Duran, called for the creation of the HIV Zero Initiative. Now, this initiative has 4 broad goals. It includes increasing health access to people living with HIV and people at a heightened risk for HIV, reducing HIV diagnoses, reducing disparity, and reducing the transition from HIV to AIDS. And so how do we measure success? We're measuring success in a variety of ways. I shouldn't have had this many clicks, but it includes accessing healthcare, getting people connected to insurance and health providers. It includes HIV testing, getting people on PrEP or having the PrEP diagnoses or consultation, linking people living with HIV to care, of course, retention and care, reducing stigma, as I mentioned before, and viral suppression. So what do we know about HIV in West Hollywood? We know that in West Hollywood, HIV, or 99% of the people diagnosed and living with HIV are gay and bisexual men. We also know that HIV is transmitted primarily through sex. And so that means our success depends on our ability to reduce barriers to health care and to support safer sex practices. So, this is not going to be a safe sex talk, but what do we know? What methods do we have available? There are condoms, there's PrEP, there's viral suppression, as Cheryl had mentioned, U equals U. And so I'm going to talk about some of the work we've done with a survey on health for the city of West Hollywood, our survey on stigma. So what we're looking at here is we see that about 50% of gay and bisexual men living with HIV and HIV negative are using condoms. So we know that condom use is not likely the preferred method of avoiding transmission. Then we talk about PrEP use. While it's positive that this is the third wave of the survey that I'm reporting on, by the way. We see that now in the most recent survey wave, 100% of the respondents are aware of PrEP, which is great. 75%, which is a jump from wave 2 to wave 3, are having conversations with their doctors about PrEP, but only 56% are using PrEP. So we know it's a little higher than the numbers we saw for condom use. Now we're looking at the treatment cascade in the city. While we are happy and satisfied with linkage, we want linkage to go up, of course, it needs to be closer to 90. We're seeing a drop-off in retention and care. It's going down to 54%. And viral suppression, the most important factor we have in making sure that U equals U, is only at about 67%. So we need to do better in that capacity. So what does this mean? This means we need to have more conversations, more comfortable conversations about sex with our health providers and with our sex partners. So these are the results of the survey when we have conversations about sex. How comfortable are you having conversations with your physician about sex? So on the left, you see people who are living with HIV, and then HIV negative on the right. These are very high numbers. 91% are comfortable. 91% of gay and bisexual men living with HIV are comfortable having those conversations with their providers, which is very encouraging. HIV negative men have a little bit lower comfort having those conversations at 81%, still very high. When we talk about having sex, or conversations about sex or HIV status with sex partners, the numbers decline. So for men living with HIV, about 68% are comfortable having conversations about HIV status versus HIV negative men, it's about 85%. Revealing HIV status to one's partner. Never or sometimes. So these are men living with HIV in the city of West Hollywood. 77% are comfortable. And so when we talk about stigma, we would like that number to be closer to 100%. So the tools that we have viral suppression, medication, PrEP, and we have having frank conversations with our sex partners. And in doing that, we believe we would be able to achieve viral suppression and increasing PrEP use. That's what we want to know. That's what we want to do. And so that includes talking about sex and HIV with doctors and sex partners, as well as encouraging friends to do the same. That is the conclusion of this talk. I had to be very brief. Thank you very much for your time.
Hello, everybody. Hi. I'm Corey Roskin. I work with David Juni and Derek Murray in Social Services. Thank you so much for being here. Now for the fun part of the evening. Lady Gaga, come on down. No, I'm kidding. She's not here. So I just want to mention really quickly, for those of you who went on the candlelight vigil, a big thanks to the Alliance for Housing and Healing, Terry Goddard, Jack Lorenz. They've been doing it for many years, and it's a really wonderful way to start the World AIDS Day in West Hollywood. And also, just to mention again, we're going to have a little reception afterwards, so stick with us. We have food. The Paul Stark Warrior Awards we've been doing for many years, and they were named after Paul Stark, who was very involved with our HIV Prevention Consortium, and it was his idea to do it. Also incredibly involved with the HIV service community. They are given to employees or volunteers with local agencies doing valuable work in the community to serve people living with HIV and AIDS. And we have an incredible group here tonight. We're going to present them not necessarily in alphabetical order. Each of our council people will be presenting a couple of the awards. We have a little city plaque. And we have some certificates that we've received from a couple of city officials, from LA City Controller Ron Galprin, and also from Supervisor Sheila Kuehl's office. Fernando Morales is here. There will also be some certificates which we'll be getting later in the mail from Assemblymember Richard Bloom's office, but I want to mention that we have Stuart Lozano and Jacob Pilkington from Assemblymember Bloom's office. So when we do a little photo op with each of the warriors, if the representatives from the other offices want to come up for the photos, that would be great. You're welcome to speak when you get your award, but keep it brief. You know, think of it like the Academy Awards. Like you may get played off by the theme from The Godfather if you go on too long. So, but you are welcome to say something if you choose to. So anyway, without further ado, we're going to start with the Warriors, and we're going to bring Mayor John Duran up to present the first two.
Thank you, Corey. The first award tonight goes to Anthony Braga from Being Alive. Anthony is, oh, he's already here. You got to work the carpet. You got to wait until I tell him about you, then you work the carpet. But it's all right. Yeah, well, go back. Yeah, go back. You want to have him hear about you, and then you work the runway. Work it. Okay. Anthony Braga is a weekly volunteer at Being Alive, helping guide new clients through the intake process, preparing for weekly wellness clinics, and facilitating support in social groups. He's the driving force of Being Alive's Tuesday evening support group, Shameless, and the Taco Tuesday social activity, Let's Taco About It. I love that. Let's taco about it. Anthony's been a community activist in the area for 15 years. He's an educator at his core, highly regarded by clients, volunteers, and agency staff members alike at Being Alive. He also serves on the HIV task force for Ventura County, where he's on call to intervene with clients who have extraordinary needs in the area with limited resources. Anthony has referred countless newly diagnosed individuals into medical and mental health services, and he shepherds people struggling with addiction into rehab, housing, and support services. Ladies and gentlemen, let's congratulate Anthony Braga.
Did you want to say anything? Please. Then we'll do a photo.
All right. I'm honored to be here with all of you. I'm not an upfront kind of guy. I'm usually in the back, hitting the ground. So honored to be a volunteer with Being Alive, Jamie and Becky. I've searched for agencies that are passionate about working with their clients and not just for a paycheck. And Being Alive is that. Thank you.
Okay, and all the other awardees, you saw how you worked the runway. You will each be judged how you work that runway to come accept your award. The next awardee scares me because I know how he works a runway, and that's Jefferson Hendrick from the Alliance for Housing and Healing. Jefferson is actually 103 years old, but he looks so physically fit. People often think that he's in his 30s. He is a Phoenix Effect Spartan team coach. He's been on the front lines for the LGBT community of West Hollywood for more than a decade through his activism and relentless fundraising for organizations that he supports. And if you follow him on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, you know he's always out there, not only raising money for the causes, but his tweets about Donald Trump are priceless. I just love hearing everything Jefferson has to say. Jefferson's fundraising efforts have helped raise Project Angel Food, nearly $40,000 for the annual AIDS Walk. In addition, he gets his team at Phoenix Effect, the Spartan race team, for the past 3 years to raise money for the Gay Men's Chorus anti-bullying program. Thank you for that. And the Alliance for Housing and Healing, raising nearly $200,000 for all of these organizations. Jefferson, that is the money, mother milk for all these nonprofits. Thank you so much. Let's all, and he led the march tonight on top of all that. So let's all congratulate Jefferson Hendrick.
Wow, I don't get awards a lot. I just have a few words. I just want to say thank you first to John Duran and John D'Amico, City of West Hollywood, and to the Alliance for Housing and Healing, Jack Lorenz and Matt Flores, and to everyone at the Phoenix Effect where I coach with this amazing group of people who allow me to coach them and push them and coax them into raising hundreds of thousands of dollars. And to be in this room with all these other people who have done all this amazing work is really special. So I just want to say thank you and keep up the good fight.
Good evening. I'm John D'Amico. For those of you, thank you. For those of you watching at home, I did make a costume change in honor of the Share show. One of the things I like to do at this event is go off script for just a minute, and actually literally a minute, to ask each of us to say the name of someone we know who died of AIDS. And if you never knew anyone personally, you certainly know the name Arthur Ashe or Ryan White, Althea Flint, even. And I think it's worth bringing some of those people into this room. So I'll begin. Patrick Snyder. And welcome to all of them and to all of you, and thank you for all of your hard work. As Jefferson said, it's an extraordinary room full of extraordinary people, and I'm also honored to be here. I asked Efren, who is our next recipient, I said, tell me something nobody else in this room knows about you, and he mentioned this kind of extraordinary thing. He said, at 17, I came to the US and I didn't know how to read or write, and I had to teach myself to do that. And I just thought that was a kind of example of the kind of commitment people make to their own personal lives and then extend that out to the lives of people in the community. And so I tip my hat to you about that. And the official notes about Efren is that he's been with the Men's Health Foundation for 5 years, starting in an administrative role and working his way up to the director of HIV prevention. Efren helps implement PrEP in LA County and started the first ever support group for persons using PrEP or interested in learning about PrEP. The CDC was so impressed with Efren's group that they flew him to Atlanta to meet with the CDC team to talk about the group and how it works and how to implement PrEP in West Hollywood. As the director of HIV prevention, Efren is doing a fantastic job supervising his team and extending biomedical prevention services to those in need. Even as a director, he is always the first one to volunteer, the first to commit himself to community outreach, and the first to smile and shake someone's hand and say, let me talk with you about PrEP. That's an extraordinary commitment to our community. And for that, I say, Efren, come up and receive your award.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so very much. Thank you to the mayors, to the city of West Hollywood. It really is an honor for me to be here in front of all of you. I am really grateful and just very blessed to be here. There are a couple people that I would like to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, because as John mentioned, when I came to this country, I didn't know how to read or write in Spanish or English. I was 17. I had no idea what HIV was. I never heard of it. I had never had an education. But at the same time, I was not afraid to learn. I was not afraid to be around people. I was not afraid. I have always been very curious about everything. I want to know. I was very lucky when I came to the Men's Health Foundation, because as growing up, I didn't really have a growing up like a figure to follow. I had to always be the leader of my family. When I got to Mansell Foundation, there was one person that really, really impressed me all the time, because it was almost like 5 or 6 p.m. when I'll get a phone call or a text message from a friend of mine or from a patient saying, I need to see a doctor. Most of the other providers were already gone for the day, but he was always there. Even if it didn't matter what time it was, he would just say, bring him in. So I want to say thank you, Dr. Mills. Thank you so much. I am so proud to be part of your team. I love you. Thank you to the team. Thank you to my friends that are here tonight. Thank you, Dan. Thank you. And to all the other winners, congratulations. You deserve this award. Remember, there's still a lot of work to do, but together, we got it. Thank you.
And our next recipient is Walter Oriano from the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. And Walter, his secret is that he likes to drink red wine, which I'm guessing is not that much of a secret. Walter has been a staple of the West Hollywood Service Providers Network for over a decade. Since 2007, Walter has been working in the HIV prevention field. That's over 11 years, and some extraordinary things have changed in those 11 years. In roles ranging from division coordinator of AHF's Public Health Division, tester on the mobile testing team, and now a tester at the West Hollywood out-of-the-closet fixed site testing team. Walter's efforts have contributed to many innovative and inspired ways of reaching the community, such as organizing various community testing events, and he embraces everyone with his warm heart and big smile and infectious energy. Let's all give Walter a welcoming round of applause. Congratulations.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So I'm not really that good with speeches, but first I want to say thank you for my mother. She's definitely a big influence in my life. And I kind of just wrote this. So a big part of it is that I'm very humbled and honored for this award that has been bestowed by me by West Hollywood and AIDS Healthcare Foundation. With that said, I don't want anyone to forget the people that we've lost, the people that are still fighting the cause, that stand by each other as a family. That's one of the things I'm very grateful for my mother, because she stood by me when I was dealing with my own sexuality. So, thank you. With that said, I'm a little nervous here. I want to just remind everyone that we still need a cure and an affordable one. Thank you. Gracias.
Councilmember John Heilman.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all of the honorees and all of the people here tonight for the work you do. I want to give a special thank you. We on the council have been thanked, but I don't think anyone has thanked our staff. So thank you, David, Corey, Derek, all of you. Thank you. I'll just say one word and, not one word, one sentence. You all really are setting the example, not just for LA County, but there are a lot of other places in this state that need work done. So the work you're doing is really setting an example. There are lots of other places in this country and in the world that could benefit from your example. So thank you every day for what you do. My honoree is Tracy Cohen. And Tracy is with APLA Health and Wellness. And we have Craig Thompson here. Craig, thank you for all of your leadership at APLA. Tracy Cohen has faithfully devoted her time volunteering at APLA Health's Client Line program for the last 9 years. She also serves as a member of APLA's Health's Board of Directors. Tracy consistently advocates for clients, providing feedback to staff on strategies on how to improve client experience while accessing health services at APLA. In this role, she also serves as a mentor for numerous undergraduate students completing their field training. So please join me in honoring Tracy Cohen. Tracy.
Well, thank you. I am really honored, I will say. It's been a wonderful 9 years working with APLA Health and Wellness, and we have done amazing strides, and I'm so proud to be part of it. Today's a huge day. We just opened our 3rd health clinic, and Craig, yeah, we have Michael is here, Craig, our visionary. But I just have to say, I remember the days when people wouldn't get tested because we would say, there's nothing we can do about it. And now we're talking 2030, and hopefully we'll all be there, down to 0. Thank you very much.
I just want to mention at the end, we're going to do a group shot with all the warriors and who's ever still here from council, representatives, and our other guest speakers, Aaron, Cheryl, and Tony. So who's ever around, we'll do a big group shot at the end.
And our next honoree is Luis Fernando Gutierrez from Friends Community Center. Luis has been an invaluable asset at Friends Community Center for over 10 years. The effort and energy he exudes to ensure continual success of various programs is truly exemplary. He has fulfilled several roles, and oftentimes several roles in a single day, at Friends Community Center. He has been a group facilitator. He has been an HIV counselor. He has been an HIV tester and a street outreach worker. And he often takes on those multiple assignments within a single day without any hesitation or complaint. He is well informed about the needs and services of our community. He is able to provide information in an extremely warm, welcoming, and nurturing manner. Please join me in honoring Luis Fernando Gutierrez. Luis.
just wanted to say this is an honor and a privilege for me to receive this award. Everybody keeps saying I got this award twice, but 20 years ago or something. But I don't remember, but I remember this time. In 1989, I left my hometown of Guadalajara, Mexico, with a backpack and full of clothes and full of dreams to come to the United States, to be myself, to have some freedom, because obviously I was not having it at home. So when I came to the United States, the first city I came, it was Los Angeles. And at the time was a group called ACT UP, Stop AIDS Los Angeles, and I kind of make new friends. And I went into a lot of march, and everybody was like marching because of rights of HIV, because there was no enough medical care or services for people that were dying with AIDS. And that's how my life changed. And I kind of fell into it. It was like I didn't pick this. It kind of picked me to do this work. And I've been doing it for quite a long time. I love it. I go to my job every day. I get burnt out a lot of the times by my clients, but I always say, tomorrow it's going to be a better day. And it always is. But I also, around that time, the city of West Hollywood was offering some home health aid classes. I happened to be a nurse in Guadalajara in Mexico, so I kind of jumped into it, and I took those classes, and I became a home health aide, and I started working for some private clients. My first client died like 3 weeks after I was taking care of him with dementia. Then I moved. I thought, it's like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this job. This is kind of sad. But I got the opportunity to start working at a Chris Brownlee Hospice, which was the first AIDS hospice in the country. It was run by AIDS Healthcare Foundation. I worked there for 2 years, and I left because of the same reason. At the time, this is 1990, 1992, the ACT was killing people, and that was the only medication at the time. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen these commercials on billboards, commercials of Virginia Slim, the cigarette, and it says, "You come a long way, baby." And I always think about that. And I think we all come a long way. I mean, now we have PrEP, which back in the 90s, we didn't have anything. The only thing we had, it was ACT, and it was not the best medication. So I also feel I'm very proud that I have some history with me. I have what it really made me who I am today. And I also wanted to thank my coworkers that are here with me. But to thank you, all of you, for being here tonight. This is the best award I ever got, I think. Thank you.
And next we have Councilmember Lindsay Horvath.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for all of the work that you have done over the many years and continue to do to make sure that we are caring for our community in the ways that West Hollywood really knows how to do. We are celebrating this time of Thanksgiving, and I know the City X1 Youth Group does a very special Thanksgiving, which is such a wonderful experience if you've ever been there. And so it's my honor to present this next award to Leonel Rodriguez, who has been an energetic and inspiring volunteer at City X1 Youth Group for 5 years. He's also accumulated endless volunteer hours helping the clients of various agencies, including the LA LGBT Center, LifeWorks Mentoring, Color in Common, Children's Hospital, and APAIT. He's currently a sexual health educator at APAIT, working with their youth group and other programs that include support for the trans community, local activism, and HIV prevention and education. He also attends Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science and is pursuing his bachelor's degree in public health. Leonel's remarkable dedication, energy, and passion for community service have won him both the admiration and respect of the youth which he serves, and it's so important that we are serving that next generation to make sure that through education, awareness, services, and support, that next generation has a different kind of future. So thank you, Leonel, for the work that you do. Please come forward.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. Looking over the, I would call it the Playbill, the program tonight, and seeing that I'm probably the youngest on there, I have a lot to represent for the youth. My name is Leonel Rodriguez, and I have been engaged in the work for 6 years now, in many capacities as a participant of the programs that many of your organizations have for the youth, a volunteer, a facilitator, and now a staff. I want to thank all of the organizations that have allowed for me to grow in this capacity. There are many that, if it weren't for their efforts and for what they do, I wouldn't be here speaking to all of you wonderful people this evening. Particularly, I want to shout out to Carlos Sosa in City X1 for all of the work that he's been doing. I gotta tell you, if you've never been to one of his events where the youth, those truly in need are, please go and see them and let them know that you have services for them, because I was one of those youth. I benefited from what you all have to offer. 6 years ago, my personal history with HIV and how it impacts me, I sat in a clinic, I'm gonna name drop the LA LGBT Center. And God, let me tell you, it's a long wait at that LA LGBT Center. Yes, but I did it. And I was there at the time with a boy who was 21, young, so young, who I loved. He was the world to me. He was everything. And I had admitted to him that I had been sexually extremely active. And I told him, listen, I don't feel comfortable. I want us to go get tested. He said, yeah. We went. At the time, it was Aura Quick. I believe it was 20 minutes. It was a good wait. It wasn't a minute. 20 minutes went by. I got my results. I came back to the waiting room. My partner wasn't there. I waited 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 35 minutes. And it was at that point, at the 40-minute mark, where my heart knew something so heavy, so profound was going to happen. I was called in by the counselor to walk into a room where I saw the love of my life, on his knees, crying. I knew then. I walked over and he collapsed onto my knees. And I knew then that I was the only support because he had given way. If I gave way, we would have fallen to the floor. I had to stand and hold us up and be there for him. I carry that with me everywhere I go, with the people that I work with the youth that I engage with, being a pillar of support, a pillar of strength. My fight changed. It was 2012 at that time, and the counselor looked at me and said, listen, there's something new on the market that I'd like to talk to you about. It's called PEP, and you've been exposed to HIV. This is an option for you. She then told me, I'm not really sure how this is going to work out for you. It's not assured. There is no guarantee. You're actually the first person that I offer this to. 28 days for no guarantee, supposedly. She gave me the numbers, she gave me everything, but at that point I didn't care. I was holding my boyfriend and he was dying in my arms of fear. Well, at the time, we didn't have health care like we did now, and the services here, there were wait lists for HIV-positive individuals. He was uninsured. His mother didn't want him on his insurance anymore because the cost. He left. He left to San Francisco to receive the services out there. And I was left here. If it weren't for a friend who's here in the audience today, Miguel Alvarez, thank you. Miguel, in my month-long despair of being left and potentially having HIV in my system without knowing, that's what kills you, not knowing, he invited me out to go to Children's Hospital, Los Angeles, where they do programming for youth, young gay men of color. And I was a young gay man of color. And there at Children's, I learned the target demographic phrase, that you're a Latino male having sex with males ages 18 through 24, and you're at the highest risk for HIV infection. It's harsh when they put it to you like that, when you're a statistic. But I grew, I learned, I soaked it all up. I took in so much knowledge from different organizations, the Center, Children's, APAIT, where I work at now, Color in Common, which was a youth empowerment group. Let me tell you, these youth empowerment groups, the empowerment groups, they work. And it is because of them that I am here now to accept this award humbly and most appreciatively for having them build me up to stand more, not just for the partner who left me, but for everyone and anyone that needs the support. Thank you.
We've heard a lot about the political attacks that are happening, but this next honoree is quite familiar with the literal and physical attacks that have been made against the organization she represents, Planned Parenthood of Los Angeles. I remember when I was mayor, we were talking about opening the West Hollywood location, and it was just in advance of when we were going through that opening, that the attack in Colorado Springs happened, that domestic terrorist attack on Planned Parenthood. And so in the wake of that tragedy and in the wake of that fear, Planned Parenthood Los Angeles said, we will open these doors in West Hollywood. We will continue to provide this service. And it's that fearlessness that informs the work that they do day in, day out for our community and for everyone they serve. And so I particularly want to thank and congratulate tonight Teresa Arellano, who is a nurse practitioner based out of Planned Parenthood West Hollywood's location. She has been providing high quality, accessible, and compassionate care to patients for over 2 years. And in addition to family planning services, Teresa plays a vital role in providing STI counseling, prevention, and treatment. This includes assessing for the need for the provision of PrEP and PEP, and thereby making valuable strides to aid in the prevention of HIV/AIDS in the community. Thank you for the service that you provide and all the ways that you serve our community. Please come forward.
Good evening. I am just like so amazed to have received this award. I brought my little friend Groot. He is a guardian of the galaxy. All of us here from representing these organizations are guardians of the community. And so we are the warriors who are picking up that sword and fighting that fight to help reach our mayor's, goal in 2030. I'm in my 6th decade of my life. If I have to continue into my 7th, I will, because I want to take up the cause and help to eradicate AIDS and to offer PrEP to all the people. So let people know that Planned Parenthood is now extending. I was so excited when I heard we were going to start opening our doors to offer PrEP because it's such needed medication. And I'm always surprised when I have a patient who isn't on PrEP, and I'm just like, you know what? You need to make an appointment to come see one of our clinicians. I'm available at West Hollywood. I'm here tomorrow, 8 to 4, although you do need an appointment, okay? And believe me, there is a wait time, but I tell people, I hope you feel it's worth it because we will get down nitty-gritty with you and talk about sex with no barriers, no taboos. Thank you.
Okay, and last, certainly not least, Councilmember Lauren Meister.
You know, in West Hollywood, we leave the best for last. Actually, congratulations to all the awardees. Let's give everyone a hand. So my first award tonight is to Laura Garcia with Los Angeles LGBT Center. Laura has worked to improve the health and health outcomes of thousands of LGBT health service patients at the Los Angeles LGBT Center for over 5 years. She began as a clinic liaison and in 2015 was promoted to the HIV/STI counseling supervisor position within the center's Sexual Health and Education program, which currently operates 2 high-volume sexual health clinics, one in West Hollywood and one in Hollywood. In her current position, Laura counsels and educates LGBT patients and provides them with clear prevention education information so that they can make informed decisions about strategies to prevent STIs, including HIV. Over the years, Laura has proven herself to be attentive and focused on providing empathetic, patient-centered care to meet the needs of people living with HIV and AIDS. Laura has earned the respect and endearment of patients and colleagues and has been integral to the launch of two significant initiatives at the Center's Health Services Department, the Audre Lorde Health Program and the Rapid Start PrEP Program. Let's welcome Laura Garcia. There you are.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm very honored to be here tonight with every one of you. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. A few years ago, I took a client who I met. He was very young. He was 19, not in the best state of mind, extremely depressed, very sad. Unfortunately, he was hooked on meth, and he was using a lot. I want to talk about this specific client because it made a huge impact in my life, and I want all of you to understand that the work that you do is extremely important. This individual was 19, alone, on a student visa from Nepal. Since he wasn't going to school, his family cut him off financially, so he was here practically homeless. When he came to my office and I actually disclosed to him that he was in fact HIV positive, he was extremely sad, depressed, suicidal. Luckily at the center we do have crisis counseling, so I was able to connect him to a therapist, and after convincing him to speak to someone, he actually decided to link into care and start services. Weeks after he stopped me, and he actually saw me in the lobby and he thanked me. He was very thankful because he wasn't going to be there anymore. He was really contemplating to take his life away. So that client made such a huge impact in my life, and it makes me stand here before you in a great honor and let you all understand that your work is extremely important. Everything you do is extremely important. You all have a great impact on patients, on clients, on the people you talk to, when you go out to outreach, when you nonchalantly talk to people about PrEP. So continue what you're doing and we'll reach to zero. Thank you.
While they're up there doing photos, I'm going to mention two other things really quickly. If you picked up a program on the back inside cover, there's some information about the HIV Zero strategic plan that Aaron talked about. And we have a little survey online, and you can help us with the strategy if you fill out the survey. So grab a program. And also, Being Alive is sponsoring 12 interviews on the hour on World AIDS Day. If you go to worldaidsdayla.org, and there's some flyers about that outside. And next one.
Okay, for our last award, it goes to Alberto Cabrera with the West Hollywood Community Housing Corporation. Alberto has worked for over 5 years with the West Hollywood Housing Corporation's clients living with HIV and AIDS. During this time, he has brought vital workshops and presentations targeted specifically for this population. Alberto has shown compassion and understanding among those residents who are most vulnerable. In one example among many, he helped a young man who was living with AIDS and dealing with substance abuse and mental health challenges retain his housing and become a vital member of the community. Let's welcome Alberto Cabrera.
Very brief. I'm just honored to be here. I want to thank you guys. I want to thank, I share this with the RSCs, my fellow RSCs, and I want to thank my supervisor, Danny Pepper, for providing me the support and guidance. Thank you.
After we do the photo with Alberto and everybody up here, can we bring all of the honorees up here and our guest speakers who spoke earlier, Tony, Aaron, and Cheryl. So are you set with that group? Okay, so can we have all the honorees and the other guest speakers come up? You guys can stay up there. And, oh yeah, I'm sorry, and any of the council members that are still here, so Councilmember Meister, Horvath, Tony, honorees, Aaron, Cheryl. Is there any more paparazzi? Oh, am I in the way?